Hi everyone, Tori here with another scrapbooking process video. This one is called Making Time. And this layout, I'm using these two photos of my friends with these adorable children. And I'm going to be using these four papers. So this paper is the Journey paper. It comes from Crate Paper. And it came in the Studio Calico Galileo kit. I'm using this Begin Anew custom paper by Studio Calico, and these two cardstocks. One's a light blue, and the other one's like a cream off-white kind of color. And I picked them out before because I really liked how they went together well, and I felt like they matched that Begin Anew floral pattern paper. So I am doing a layout today that is inspired by another scrapbooker over at Studio Calico, the Slow Scrapper, and there was a message board challenge to scrap lift the person above you, and this is the layout that goes with that challenge. So the Slow Scrapper, it has really a lot of clean looking pages, and she does use grids a lot. So I wanted to do a layout that was sort of inspired by that. So when I saw these papers, I thought it would be sort of fun to cut the blue paper and the floral paper into squares and sort of make a grid design. So I did that. I cut a whole bunch of squares that are 2 by 2 size, and then I wanted to ink the edges so that they all looked uniform or had something like in common. So I'm using Memento Tuxedo black ink and a mini distress ink blending tool, and just inking all of those edges black. And this also helps it fit in with the album that I'm currently working on, which is an album of my photos from my Bolivia mission trip that I took last year, November. And the album is a 9.25 by 12 or 9 by 12 album. So it's a little different for me. Normally I do square layouts, but lately I've been doing rectangle ones, but it's been a good challenge. So I grabbed all these squares and I inked all the edges, and then once I had those all done, I started laying those out on the page in a sort of checkered pattern. I end up shifting them all over and getting 5 by 5 squares. So 5 2 by 2 squares by 5 2 by 2 squares. And I decided to flip over some of those squares so that I'd have another pattern. The back of the floral pattern has this like checkered print, and well, it's not really checkered, it's more like gingham, or I don't know, what do you call that? And I just thought it would be nice for the layout to have 3 patterns instead. So I ended up having to ink those edges, and then I'm just using my hot glue gun to put a dab of glue behind each of the squares and sticking them down. And I am not trying to be perfect. I sort of like that they're not perfect, like that they're a little wonky. It sort of fits with the theme of the layout or the design element. Now, like I said earlier, this is supposed to be a 9 by 12 layout, but I forgot because I'm so used to working on 12 by 12. So I made a 12 by 12 page. This is the third time I've done that for this layout, but I can fix it. I ended up cutting off one of the lines of squares and just a little bit on the edge so that it is a 9 by 12 layout, and it worked perfectly. So these are the two photos. They're photos of my friend Ray and my friend Deborah, who were also on the mission trip with me, and they're just holding these really cute babies that we met, or these really cute children that we met at a somebody's house when we went to visit. And I snapped these photos of them, and I wanted to put them on the same layout because they sort of share a story of just loving on people. So I backed both of those with that grid paper from Crate Paper called The Journey, so that they'd both have sort of a mat to sit on. And I'm going to put one of those photos in the top right hand corner and one in the bottom left hand corner, sort of making a diagonal design. And again, just using my hot glue gun for that to overlap those. And then I knew that I wanted to put the title in the middle, and I thought maybe I could use one of the Project Life cards for my title. So I'm just digging through those, and I found this one that sort of has a clock and it says make time, which I thought was perfect because it's like we had to make time in our lives to slow down and do something for somebody else, and we all took a week and a little bit off of work so that we could go do this. And I had that Project Life card, so I fussy cut around it, and then I felt like it needed to stand out more, so I grabbed some paper from a paper pad that I had, and there was this yellow paper and also this white paper with little blue polka dots, which you can't see that great on camera, but close up you can see it. And so I'm going to glue the clock down to that yellow paper and then fussy cut around it and then glue it down onto the white and then back onto the yellow and then back on the white so that there's like 4 layers. And not only does it add dimension, but it also helps the clock to stand out a little bit on the background, so that it's, I don't know, pops more so that you can see the title more clearly. And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to add my embellishments, and my embellishments are also going to flow in this diagonal line, which is sort of bottom left to top right, but you'll see that as I go about here. Anyways, so this layout was completely inspired by somebody else. Although she doesn't have a layout like this, it's sort of in the same kind of style as her to do like repetition and grids. She has a bunch of cards where she uses like the same stamped image in repetition. So I don't know. I use paper here, but it's sort of like the same kind of thing. And now I'm going to add my embellishments. So I'm just going through, and I had this blue resin star, and I actually had 2 of those. So I'm going to put one in the bottom left and one in the top right. And then I'm going to create 2 clusters sort of in that same area. So I'm going to add some resin flowers, some puffy stickers, and enamel dots. And they're all just going to be in that same sort of area, the bottom corner and the top corner. And it just sort of helps that diagonal line form so that your eye flows among the page. And I really like the way that this page turned out. It sort of looks a little bit like a quilt to me, and I love that. And I love that I got to use a whole bunch of pattern paper and cardstock on one layout. So it's totally me. So while it's scrap lifted idea from somebody else, it's still a page that I can look at and go, yeah, that's me. So the plastic alpha that came in the scrapbook kit this month had these hearts on it, so I decided to grab some of those also and stick those down, and it sort of continues that diagonal line. And then I'm going to add my date and my journaling. So while I was on the trip, I used this pink journal to write down everything that we did and ate and everything so that I could remember it all. So it's just looking in the journal to check that I had the right date for the page. And I'm using a Dear Lizzie date stamp and that black Memento Tuxedo ink. Just stamp the date a bunch of times. And then I'm going to add my journaling, and I'm going to do my journaling on just some of those blue squares. And I'm just journaling about how it's so important for us to make time for things like this, like time to just love on other people. Other than that, the page is done. I'm going to hold it up so you guys can see it, and thanks for joining me today. Hope you have a lovely day. Bye!